The European Union delegation in the Philippines has come a long way since it was established a quarter of a century ago. Today, we look back at the past 25 years and look forward to the future. To tell us more about the EU-Philippine relations, we have in the studio Ambassador Franz Jessen. Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
No, it's a great pleasure.
Well, let's start with the bilateral free trade agreement that the Philippines and EU are possibly going to enter into. Can you tell us the status of this agreement?
Yes, when I came here last year in September, we were doing what we call a scoping exercise. That is to lay out the framework for such a negotiation. And I was very happy that we concluded that last year, and in December it was decided to launch negotiations. And we have already had some early contacts between the administration here, DTI in particular, and our colleagues back in Brussels. And the first round of negotiation will take place next month at the end of May. And I'm looking very much forward to that, because I think if we do it right, the negotiations should be quite smooth. And we are, of course, very keen that the new administration will carry on the work and give this the priority that it deserves.
So you're very positive, regardless of who wins as president, that this can move forward?
My impression is that this is not a political issue in the Philippines. It's simply an economic issue. How do the Philippine government, whoever it is, drive the economic development of the country best forward? And one of the issues there is to make sure that trade between the Philippines and Europe is increasing more than it is right now.
And you think this free trade agreement will benefit even the ordinary Filipinos?
I think it will benefit the whole country and all sectors for two reasons. One is, of course, that it would open up trade with the EU, and therefore export possibilities from the Philippines to the EU will increase. That's valuable in itself. But I think another element is that such a negotiation will also serve to open up certain sectors within the Philippine economy, and therefore create a more competitive environment within the country.
And right now, without the free trade agreement in place, you have the Generalized System of Preferences, or GSP+, which was granted to the Philippines. Can you tell us more about this GSP+?
Yes, it's a complicated name, but basically what it means is that it lowers tariffs for about 60% of the tariff lines, as we call it, the products that are being sold or exported from the Philippines to Europe, down to a level of 0. So that means that products, for example, we are in southern Philippines just last week, products like mangoes, mango juice, mango jam, instead of paying a 17% tariff, it can be exported to the EU without any duty, without any tariff.
So you've seen an increase in the exports of the Philippines to the EU because of this GSP+?
Yeah, we have seen that shifting to the GSP+ increased exports by 27%. The exports
that's a huge number, 27%.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And let's talk about development cooperation. The EU has granted over 500 million euros in grants, and for the next cycle, 2014 and 2020, you're going to double this. And the focus is on inclusive growth and strengthening of the rule of law. Why these two areas?
It's two areas that we have decided together with the government, because this type of support, it's all grant money, I should say, is something that we cannot do alone. We need to make sure that there's a buy-in from the authorities, from the government here, and we have that for these two sectors. So energy, clean energy is a priority for Europe. It's something where we feel that we have the technology, we have the know-how, we have the experience to share with the Philippines. So that's one of the reasons. The rule of law is for two reasons. Partly, you can say rule of law, human rights, justice in a society are key issues, and they are, and we work very hard to improve the situation in the Philippines on those issues. But it's also related to the economic development, because without a strong justice sector, you're not able to enforce your contracts. It holds investments back from Europe, and that's one of the reasons also why we choose it.
It also adds to stability and the predictability
of
the country.
It does, yeah.
And the EU right now is also a major donor for the peace process in Mindanao. And why are you focusing on this specific issue as well?
Because we think that it's important for the Philippines to see that when we look at the Philippines from abroad, we don't look at Makati, we don't look at Manila, but we look at the whole country. And the unstable situation that we have in certain parts is holding the relationship back. It's holding the economic relationship back, because investors do not want to invest large sums in a country where they feel that this may not be safe. So the issue of security is a key issue for economic development as we see it, and that Mindanao plays an important role there. And we work very well with the different parties involved in Mindanao, the government, of course, MILF, we work also very close with. And we believe that we have some experiences that we can share also from other parts of the world that they can benefit the peace and stability process that we are trying to support.
Okay, now let's go to a lighter topic. Recently, you participated in a bike tour, the Sikaran, in Guimaras. Can you tell us about that?
It was wonderful. It was last weekend, and I enjoyed it very much. I'm from Denmark myself, and Denmark is one of the countries that are using bikes a lot.
Yes, I know. I've been there, and I've seen even lanes devoted to bikes.
Yes. And the speed is almost the same as cars in Copenhagen when you go to work by bike. But of course in Guimaras it's very different, because in Denmark you may know that the highest point we have, we call it a mountain, is less than 200 meters tall. And that means that when we bike in Guimaras, where it's up and down all the time, it's very different. And of course, a lot hotter. But I went there, and we had about, I think, 100 bikers who took 25 kilometers up and down in the different hills, 35 degrees. It was wonderful.
It sounds very exciting, and I hope that would encourage even the locals to try this bike tour. And thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Franz Jessen. And that was very enlightening, and I really look forward to the other activities that the EU has planned up for this coming year. We've just spoken with the European Union Head of Delegation to the Philippines, Ambassador Franz Jessen.